Hello, this is David, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing these swimming goggles from the Magic5. So for those of you that don't know what the Magic5 swimming goggles are, essentially they are goggles that are custom fit, designed to fit nicely on your face, ultimately with the intention of being much more comfortable than your typical training goggle. I entered the situation where I wanted a new pair of goggles for training and thus decided to give these a go. And in this video, I just wanted to let you know how I got on with them and how good I think they are. So if you give this video a like, I'd very much appreciate it. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel for more swimming content. And for swimming coaching, head on over to westcough.com. But otherwise, without any further ado, let's dive right in to today's review. So I'd like to start by explaining why I decided to purchase these goggles in the first place, because hopefully that will give a little bit of context as to why someone else might want to buy them and whether these are for you. So typically during races, I wear Speedo swim sockets. And I hadn't only been wearing them for racing, but also in training as well, where I found that they can be a little bit tight around the eyes, making them sore and uncomfortable. Similarly, when racing, I was also wearing the same goggles that I was using in training, and therefore was just a little bit concerned that I was using goggles in races that had been significantly worn and therefore were a little bit more liable to leaking during races, which in turn could screw up my race because the goggles would fill with water and therefore I couldn't see what I was doing, which just makes swimming that little bit more difficult. It's never a good thing to lose your goggles during races, and so I decided that I wanted a new pair of training goggle to first off gain a little bit more comfort when training, and second to ensure that I was going into races with a pair of goggles that were in reasonably good condition so that, as I said, they wouldn't come off during a race or fill up with water. So the reason why I specifically wanted to purchase a pair of the Magic5 swimming goggles was predominantly for that reason of comfort. When training, I didn't want to have that feeling of discomfort that you always get from wearing goggles for too long. With my speed sockets, I was taking the goggles off in any opportunity that I could where I had 15 seconds of rest or greater, just to give my eyes a little bit of a break. And you can actually see under my eyes here and here where I've got marks from where the swimming goggles just dig into my skin. So really looking for something that would give me that next level of comfort. And I thought, as the Magic5 marketed themselves as a pair of custom fit goggles to help fit your face better and therefore just give that next level of comfort, I thought that I'd give them a go. So actually purchasing the goggles was quite an interesting experience in of itself, because not only did I have to go through the website to purchase the goggles themselves, but I also had to download the Magic5 app in order to scan my face, which would then send the digital map of my face to the Magic5, and they would then go ahead and create this pair of custom fit swimming goggles for me. So it was quite interesting, just with my camera phone tilting different angles like this, trying to map the entirety of my face. And one thing that I didn't like about this experience was it wasn't particularly clear whether I was doing this right or not, and that gave me a little bit of cause for concern as to whether the final product would actually be custom fit to my face. However, The software said that I had scanned my face 100%. I'd followed the instructions as they'd said. And so I thought, you know, I'll just trust in the process. I've probably done it right. And I'm sure that if something's gone wrong, then they will email me. And I think they pretty much say this in their sales literature. They say that if something goes wrong with the scanning process, they'll get in touch with you to scan your face again and help you get it right the next time. So I thought, given that the software has accepted it, and similarly down the line, whilst awaiting the goggles, no one contacted me to say, actually, we need to do the scan again. You know, I thought things were fine. So after a bit of a wait, the goggles finally arrived, and I was really excited to get down to the pool and test these bad boys out for the very first time. However, upon trying them out for the first time was when I first started encountering problems. The first of which is that the goggles felt a little bit too narrow on my face. They didn't fit perfectly on my face. However, as is typically the case with my Speedo swim sockets, I normally have to go up a nose piece size in order to get the goggles to fit my face correctly. So they had provided 5 nose pieces. They start off with the middle one, and you then either can go up 2 sizes or down 2 sizes. So I did exactly the same here as I would do with my Speedo swim sockets, and that was to go up a size. That helped somewhat to help my goggles fit my face better. The goggles felt wider and actually laterally in line with my 2 eyes, so that solved that problem. However, another issue that I was having was that I found that the goggles leaked quite significantly when I tried to follow their instructions. They say because the goggles are custom fit to your face, that you don't need to rely as much on the straps. You don't need to tighten them as much as you would do on a traditional pair of goggles, because you just let the geometry do their work. And so I tried this. Goggles filled up with water, and so maybe I took that a little bit too literally, and therefore progressively tightened them up until they stopped leaking. And there came a point where, lo and behold, they stopped leaking. However, I would still say that they put quite a bit of pressure onto the face, and this was the whole reason why I decided to look at a new pair of swimming goggles in the first place, because the pressure from my swim sockets, again, as you can see from here, is quite extensive. They create marks on my face, particularly below my eyelids. And although the pressure was a little bit lesser than what I was experiencing with the Speedo swim sockets, I still wouldn't say it was entirely comfortable. And therefore, from that perspective, for me, these pair of goggles felt like a little bit of a letdown, because they were marketed as being that next level of comfort, whereas it was an insignificant difference. So a little bit disappointed from that perspective. One reason why that might be, though, is because of how the goggles actually sit on your face. With the swim sockets, which I have right here, you can see the cupping is such that the cushion pads actually sit around your eye. So they sit on the bones that make up your eye socket, where with these, the actual cushioning is a little bit narrower, so they actually come into your eye socket somewhat. And so I was sort of feeling the pressure in this inner circle of my eye socket, which first off felt quite weird, but however, because I've been naturally used to having them sit there, I thought, okay, this is probably just different, and therefore it's just something that I need to get used to. But that inner bit feels a little bit more delicate than, or is more sensitive than this outer bone here, and hence why the pressure, even though the goggles may not have been tightened as much as with my speed sockets, actually felt to be a similar level of discomfort, because first off it was just weird, and secondly because it almost feels as though it was resting on your eye at times, that the goggle just almost hurt as much as the the speed sockets do. So again, a little bit disappointed from a comfort perspective, as this was the primary factor as to why I wanted to buy this pair of goggles. However, things go from bad to worse, where the most disappointing thing about these goggles for me is the rate at which they fog up. And I found it almost unbelievable the extent to which they did this. First, I thought that I was doing something wrong with them, because they just fog up really quickly, and this was only after a few sessions. Reading the booklet that came with the pair of goggles, it said don't use your fingers to defog the insides of the goggles, because that just makes things worse. However, I'd gotten to the stage with these goggles where, without having doing that, they were just fogging up so quickly anyway. They were literally fogging up almost 3 seconds after I'd pushed off from the wall and had my face submerged in the water, just incredibly quickly, such that there came a point where I had to resort to defogging them with my fingers. The Magic5 sell a defogging spray, but I've never experienced this level of fogginess with my speed sockets before, and therefore just found this pretty sublime, if I'm being honest. Just really surprising the extent at which they fogged up. And I'm quite disappointed, because normally you get scratches on the inside of any goggle that you wear, which reduces their visibility over time. However, with these, visibility was pretty much minimal from the offset because of this fogging up. When I first started wearing them, it was great because they were relatively clear, and because they weren't black, they were blue, it meant more light got into them. So for the first few sessions, I was actually quite enjoying the visibility side of it. However, as time progressed and the fogginess of these goggles just progressively got worse and worse, to the extent where I just had to accept that I was swimming with a foggy pair of goggles, I decided to give up on them, and I was really disappointed. I ended up going back to my speed sockets for training, just because I found them more reliable. And so the process that I'm using now is I buy a new pair of speed sockets for races, and then I have an older pair of speed sockets for training. And this seems to work well, because the point at which my training speed sockets become pretty much not usable anymore, I'll then buy a new pair to use for races, and then my racing pair gets cascaded down to being my training pair. And I think this is a system that works reasonably well for me, and is one that I've had to adopt on the basis of just this experimentation with finding a pair of training swimming goggles not going well at all. So I'm really quite disappointed with the goggles. I thought they had so much promise. I really liked the concept of them, the custom fit, having something that's a little bit more comfortable to fit around your face, so when you're doing long training sessions, you know, your eyes wouldn't start to hurt, or the bones around your eyes wouldn't start to hurt. And it would also help when doing longer distance training, when you've actually got to wear goggles for long duration periods of swimming. Because I'm a sprint swimmer, it means that I've got a lot of rest, and therefore have got a lot of time where I can actually bring the goggles up onto my forehead, which just gives my eyes that little bit more respite. However, for longer distance swimmers, I really don't envy them, because that's quite painful, especially if you're doing lots of distance work. You know, it must really hurt really hurt your eyelids. So yeah, ultimately feeling that the Magic5 isn't quite so magic. A little bit disappointed because they're expensive, and overall I found them to have no benefit over my Speedo swim sockets. They fogged up more quickly, they weren't more comfortable, and they were, I think, significantly more expensive. I think my speed sockets were 40 quid, and I think the Magic5 goggles, I got them for approximately 70 quid with the offer that they were going for. So that's nearly double the price, and yet I've actually seen no improvement in terms of either their practicality or comfort. So as a result, don't recommend them. When it comes to finding a pair of goggles, I would try to find ones that you're comfortable with. I know that people find speed sockets quite uncomfortable, so I would not recommend them to others myself. And I feel as though with goggles, it's more about finding a case of something that you're comfortable with. This is an aspect of swimming where personal taste very much comes into it, and I'm sure with people's different face geometries there's something about that where perhaps I'm just lucky and the speed socket fits my face rather nicely, whereas for others the shape of them may not be as compatible with their face, and hence why they experience more discomfort to the extent where it becomes intolerable. So moral of the story is, unhappy with my purchase with the Magic5 swimming goggles. I've actually now just noticed that they've got a tear in the actual cushioning already. I'd noticed that they were starting to leak a little bit more, so maybe where that's come from. So they don't really feel all that robust. I've probably gone with my training pair of speed sockets for twice the amount of time in the pool actually wearing them on my face than I have with these Magic5 goggles. So my experience, and fair enough, this is you know, a case of one, so perhaps you may want to look at other reviews to see if other people are saying things different, but my experience is that no more comfortable than other swimming goggles. They fog up really quickly. I don't know if the spray helps, but on the basis that my other goggles don't fog up as quickly without a spray, that just feels a little bit off to me. And also I've got a tear in them now, which probably means that if I wear them again, then they're just going to fill up with water and therefore not very robust. So overall, love the concept of them, but unfortunately for me, didn't work in practice.
For more swimming content, click on my profile picture and subscribe to my YouTube channel. For swimming coaching, visit westcough.com, or for another video of mine that I think you'd like, click on the thumbnail.